People think pirate ships were just loud, messy boats full of treasure and shouting, but there was a whole other side. Unusual systems, hidden routines, and choices that made no sense on the surface. It wasn't just about gold. There were secrets wired into the way they lived and sailed, the kind that turn old pirate tales into something far stranger. One of those secrets was written directly on their skin. Gunpowder tattoos were how pirates marked their rank and loyalty on their skin. They mixed gunpowder with oil, ash, or soot to create permanent marks that told everyone exactly who they were. But these weren't just random drawings. Every single tattoo carried meaning. Your position on the ship, which crew you sailed with, how many successful raids you'd survived. Pirates used needles or sharp fish bones to push this gunpowder mixture deep under their skin. The process was more painful than modern tattoos, but at least pirates didn't have to worry about their artist misspelling strength as strength. Then there's the identification factor. When a pirate died in battle or drowned at sea, his body could wash up anywhere. But those gunpowder tattoos told everyone exactly who he was and what crew he belonged to. No guessing games needed. What made this system really clever was how pirates used tattoos to avoid legal trouble. Navy deserters faced severe punishment if caught, but pirates got specific markings that proved they were pirates, not runaway sailors. It was like wearing a name tag that said, "I'm supposed to be a criminal, not a traitor." However, these tattoos stayed hidden from outsiders and authorities. Pirates knew that showing the wrong person their markings could mean death. They developed ways to conceal them under clothing or only reveal them to trusted crew members. Let's not forget how this secrecy made the tattoos even more valuable. Like having a membership card to an exclusive club that happened to rob ships for a living. Pirates basically invented the world's first loyalty program, except instead of earning points for coffee, they earned scars for surviving sword fights. But identifying friends was only half the battle when approaching enemy ships. False flags were how pirates tricked enemy ships into letting them get close. Ships carried flags from different nations specifically to disguise their true identity and intentions. This was pure deception at its finest. A pirate ship would approach its target flying a French flag, a British flag, or whatever would make them look harmless. The crew on the victim ship would see a friendly or neutral flag and think nothing suspicious was happening. Pirates basically invented catfishing, except instead of using fake photos on dating apps, they used fake flags on murder boats. Meanwhile, the target ship would let them get close, sometimes even close enough to have conversations. Crew members would wave at each other. Maybe they'd share news or trade information about weather conditions ahead. Then came the deadly surprise. Down went the fake flag at the last possible moment. Up went the real pirate flag, often custom-made to strike fear into anyone who saw it. By this time, the pirate ship was close enough to attack before the target could escape. The false flag tactic worked because most sailors weren't expecting such bold deception. Naval battles usually happened between ships that knew they were enemies from the start. It was like a friendly neighbor waving hello right before they robbed your house, except your house was floating and full of valuable cargo. But here's what made this strategy truly devastating: the psychological impact. That moment when victims realized the friendly ship they just waved at was about to rob them, blind created confusion and terror. Pirates turned every sea encounter into a deadly game of peekaboo, where peek meant prepare to be robbed and boo meant hand over your treasure. Of course, winning battles was pointless if your crew died from their injuries afterward. Hidden doctors sailed with pirate crews, but they kept their presence secret from everyone outside the ship. These weren't just basic healers either. They were skilled surgeons who could perform operations under the worst conditions possible. Most people assume pirates just bled to death when they got hurt. Wrong. These secret doctors carried medical kits filled with saws, scalpels, and painkillers like rum or laudanum. They could amputate limbs, stitch wounds, and even perform surgery while the ship rocked back and forth in rough seas. Being a pirate doctor was like being a surgeon during an earthquake that never stops, except the earthquake was also shooting cannons at you. What's more, these doctors were so valuable that pirate codes often gave them some of the highest shares of stolen treasure. The crew understood their survival depended on keeping their doctor alive and happy. Then there's the identity issue. Many of these doctors used false names and backgrounds. They couldn't exactly advertise their services as pirate ship surgeon when visiting port towns. Instead, they pretended to be regular merchants, travelers, or even religious figures. Pirate doctors had to be masters of disguise. By day, they were humble travelers. By night, they were amputating limbs with a rusty saw while the ship bounced around like a carnival ride. Yet these medical professionals chose this dangerous life, often because they'd gotten into legal trouble on land and saw pirating as their only option. But the crew's dedication to protecting their doctor was just part of a larger democratic system. Pirates had better healthcare benefits than most kingdoms, which is impressive considering their workplace was literally a floating crime scene. Yet this medical care was just one part of a surprising democratic system. Secret voting systems and detailed pay charts governed how pirate crews made decisions and split their treasure. Every crew member had voting rights, including the power to choose or remove their captain. Before setting sail, crews would write out articles that outlined every rule, punishment, and reward. These weren't loose agreements either. They were serious contracts that everyone signed and followed strictly. Pirates had more organized employee handbooks than most modern companies, except their workplace involved significantly more sword fighting and treasure hunting. The voting system covered all major decisions. Should they attack that merchant ship ahead? Time to vote. Is the captain making bad choices? Vote him out and pick someone better. But here's what made this system really work: the fairness factor. Loot shares were assigned before anyone even knew if there would be loot. The captain got a bigger share, but not by much. The surgeon received extra compensation. Anyone who lost a limb in battle got bonus payments. Even the cook had a guaranteed percentage of whatever they stole. Pirates created the world's first profit-sharing program, though their version involved less paperwork and more actual sharing of stolen profits. Yet violating these codes meant serious consequences. Get caught stealing from your crewmates, you might get marooned on a desert island. The democratic process extended to choosing punishments too. Start fights without cause? The crew would vote on your consequences, and it was usually brutal. Pirate democracy was like modern voting, except instead of campaign promises, candidates offered better plans for robbing merchant ships. Still, coordinating all these democratic decisions required communication methods that wouldn't alert their enemies. Deck-tapping codes allowed pirates to communicate silently during attacks and daily operations. These weren't random sounds. They were organized signals that could coordinate entire crews without speaking a word. Different rhythms carried different meanings. 3 quick taps followed by 2 slow ones might mean prepare weapons. A steady drumming pattern could signal move quietly. The most dangerous code was the rhythm that meant mutiny ready. It was like having a secret language where your feet did all the talking, except instead of asking for directions, you were coordinating armed robbery. The genius lay in the system's simplicity. Anyone walking past a pirate ship would just hear normal deck sounds: footsteps, work noises, maybe someone fixing equipment. What's more, pirates practiced these codes until they became second nature. During an attack, the captain could coordinate the entire crew without shouting a single order. This gave them a massive advantage over their victims, who had no idea that every tap they heard was part of a coordinated plan. Pirates basically invented Morse code, except instead of dots and dashes, they used stomp and stomp stomp to plan their next heist. These silent signals were passed through rhythm and routine, never through words. That way, even if someone overheard them, they couldn't understand the meaning. However, the codes also helped organize surprise attacks. When approaching a target ship, pirates could signal each other about weapon positions, timing, and strategy while appearing to do normal ship maintenance. To outsiders, it looked like routine deck work, but to pirates, it was like a deadly dance where every step meant get ready to steal everything that isn't nailed down. The most surprising thing about these communication systems wasn't how they worked, but who was actually using them. Female pirates had hidden roles on many ships, working both openly and in disguise to support pirate operations. Some dressed as men to serve on board without causing crew conflicts, while others operated behind the scenes as suppliers and spies. The disguise method was more common than most people realize. Cut your hair short, bind your chest, learn to talk and walk like a sailor, and you could fool most people for months or even years. Female pirates were masters of undercover work, proving that women could fool entire crews of men long before anyone invented fake mustaches. But not all female pirates hid their identity. Some fought openly in battles, and they'd earned respect through their skills with weapons and tactics. The problem is that many of their stories were erased or downplayed in official records afterward. Then there were the women who worked on land. They supplied ships with food, weapons, and vital information. Some acted as spies, gathering intelligence about merchant ships and naval movements. Others managed the financial side of piracy, laundering stolen goods and investing profits. Female pirates were like the special forces of the pirate world, highly skilled, often invisible, and absolutely essential to mission success. A few pirate havens even allowed women in leadership roles ashore, since these towns operated outside normal laws. Let's not forget that traditional gender rules didn't always apply in places where might made right. Women could own businesses, make political decisions, and command respect from male pirates who valued ability over social conventions. Pirates were surprisingly progressive employers. They didn't care about your gender as long as you could swing a sword and count stolen treasure accurately, but even the most skilled crews needed reliable ways to find safe harbors away from naval patrols. Sea turtles served as living navigation tools that led pirates to uncharted islands perfect for hiding treasure and ships. These creatures returned to the exact same beaches where they were born to lay their eggs, creating reliable routes to secret locations. This wasn't common knowledge back then. Most sailors stuck to known trade routes and official maps, but pirates needed to find places that weren't on any charts, islands with fresh water and shelter where they could hide from naval forces. Sea turtles basically became the world's slowest GPS system, except they occasionally tried to bite you and couldn't give you traffic updates. Pirates would spot turtles swimming in open ocean and track their direction carefully. These animals were heading somewhere specific, and that somewhere was usually exactly what pirates needed. The islands turtles led them to were often perfect pirate bases with secluded beaches, fresh water sources, and natural harbors protected from storms. What made this strategy even better was that these turtle-guided locations weren't on merchant maps. Moreover, sea turtles provided excellent emergency food supplies. Unlike most sea animals, turtles could survive for weeks on a ship without water or special care. Pirates discovered that turtles were like living, swimming lunchboxes that came with their own navigation services included. When fresh food ran out, these creatures provided meat that could keep crews alive during long voyages. Following turtles was like having a nature guide who doubled as dinner. Talk about multitasking in the animal kingdom. However, finding safe harbors was only useful if you had the right weapons to defend them. Improvised cannon ammunition made from scrap metal, rocks, and debris was far more deadly than regular cannonballs. Pirates loaded their cannons with nails, chains, broken glass, and whatever sharp objects they could find. Regular cannonballs were designed to punch clean holes in ship hulls, but pirates wanted to disable enemy crews and destroy their ability to fight back completely. That's why they got creative with their ammunition choices. Pirate cannons were like deadly surprise boxes. You never knew if you were getting exploding metal, flying chains, or a shower of sharp objects that used to be someone's dinner plate. Chain shot was particularly brutal in its effectiveness. 2 cannonballs connected by a chain would spin through the air and tear through ship rigging like a massive flying saw blade. Meanwhile, nails and broken glass created a shotgun effect when fired from cannons. Instead of one big impact, victims faced hundreds of small projectiles flying at deadly speeds. This attack method was designed to injure as many crew members as possible. Pirates salvaged materials for ammunition wherever they found them. Wrecked ships provided metal scraps. Broken tools became projectiles. Even beach rocks could be lethal when fired from close range. Pirates turned everyday junk into weapons of mass destruction, proving that one man's trash was literally another man's ammunition. But the psychological effect was just as important as the physical damage. The sound alone would terrify enemy crews before they even saw the destruction it caused. Getting hit by a pirate cannon was like being attacked by a hardware store that had learned to fly at deadly speeds. Yet pirates didn't just improvise their weapons, they had to get creative with basic ship equipment too. Recycled anchors made from melted treasure and stolen metal kept pirate ships secure when original equipment was lost or damaged. Pirates would melt down cannon parts, chains, and iron bars to create replacement anchors that worked just as well as expensive new ones. Losing an anchor was a serious problem for any ship. Without it, you couldn't safely stop in harbors or ride out dangerous storms. But buying replacement anchors was expensive and suspicious. Pirates couldn't walk into ports and order ship equipment without raising obvious questions. Pirates turned their stolen goods into the tools they needed to steal more goods. It was like a criminal recycling program with significantly better profit margins than modern recycling centers. That's where their stolen goods became useful for more than just profit. Cannon parts from captured ships became anchors. Chains taken from prisoners became anchor chains. Iron bars stolen from coastal towns melted down and reformed into whatever shape was needed. These improvised anchors worked perfectly fine for pirate needs. They were heavy enough to hold ships in place and strong enough to handle rough weather conditions. Pirate metalworking was like extreme crafting. Instead of making decorative items for their homes, they made essential ship parts from other people's valuables. The only downside was that pirates sometimes had to abandon these anchors when escaping naval forces in a hurry. Years later, people would discover hidden pirate harbors because of these leftover iron anchors that clearly weren't made by legitimate shipbuilders. Pirates accidentally created the world's first underwater archaeology sites, except instead of ancient civilizations, they left behind evidence of really good recycling skills. But even the most creative pirates knew that their most important ship component needed special protection from theft. Detachable rudders prevented ship theft and mutiny by making vessels impossible to steer when captains went ashore. No rudder meant no steering, and no steering meant the ship wasn't going anywhere without the captain's permission and presence. This simple security measure was incredibly effective against multiple threats. A ship's rudder is essential for navigation. Without it, even the most experienced crew couldn't control where the vessel went or how it responded to wind and waves. It was like removing the steering wheel from your car, except if someone stole your ship, they could become pirates themselves and probably kill you in the process. Captains would have their most trusted crew members remove the rudder and hide it below deck whenever they stopped at dangerous ports. Only the first mate, and maybe one or two others, knew where this vital component was stored. This practice was especially common in remote coastal areas where pirate crews might encounter rival pirates, naval forces, or hostile local authorities. Pirates invented the ultimate anti-theft device decades before car alarms were even a dream. They just made their ships physically impossible to drive away. What made this system even more valuable was its role in preventing mutinies. Unhappy crew members might be able to overpower a captain on land, but they couldn't use the ship to escape without the missing rudder component. A captain who left his ship unprotected could return to find it gone, stolen by his own crew, or captured by enemies. The detachable rudder was like the ultimate "you can't fire me, I quit" move, except instead of quitting a job, you were preventing your own murder and ship theft. These 10 secrets reveal how pirates were far more organized, creative, and intelligent than most people realize. They built sophisticated systems that would impress modern business leaders.